Welcome to another episode of Financially Irresponsible. I am your host, Rahkim Sabree. And in this episode, I want to talk about a recent interaction that I had with a client of mine for financial therapy. This individual asked me a very interesting question, and I had to kind of like pause and laugh at my inability to immediately respond. Not because I didn't know the answer, but more so because it was just a very direct question. And that question was, how do I identify my own financial traumas? So this individual is asking me, how do they identify financial trauma within themselves? And financial trauma is an area that I specialize in. It's an area that I spend a lot of my time talking about. So it was difficult for me in just kind of meeting this individual for the first time to pinpoint what the source of their financial trauma was, right? From a practitioner or from a practical perspective, right? This individual did not give me a lot of information about how they grew up. They didn't give me a lot of information about some of the messaging that they were internalizing, or even the messaging that they tell themselves. And so it was very difficult to kind of pinpoint where financial trauma was coming from within them. But what I did do was reposition the question into a series of questions for them to answer so that I could learn more about them and so that I could help them come to some conclusions about what financial trauma or what money trauma looks like in their own experience. Before I get into some of those questions, I also want to share a recent accomplishment. So over a 13 to 15 week period, I was taking a course called The Trauma of Money, co-founded by Chantel Chapman. Shout out to the Trauma of Money crew. Phenomenal course. And on a almost weekly basis, every other week, I believe. Every other week, we would have these virtual sessions going over not just money and trauma from a clinical perspective in the way that I'm used to hearing it discussed, but more so the system of money, right? The system of finances and how capitalism come into play and how systems come into play and how so much of the messaging that we hear about how we should manage money points the finger and places the blame on the individual and does not reflect back to the system and how the individual is reacting to the pressures of navigating that system. And it's just a phenomenal program. And I recently finished it. I recently got my certification. So I am now a certified trauma of money practitioner, in addition to all the work that I've been doing and the certifications that I already have. So this was definitely something special to add to the repertoire, another tool, additional learnings for me to take into this year and beyond, and being able to help the individuals that I work with or the organizations that I partner with in delivering inclusive, trauma-informed content related to money and the ways that we navigate money. So back to this individual. As this individual is kind of like opening up and sharing with me some of the experiences that they feel contribute to their own money trauma or financial trauma, I asked them a question that I saw posed in one of the courses. And that question was, do you believe that you can be trusted with money? I'm going to say that again. And this time, I want you to make a note of your immediate reaction to being asked that question. Do you believe that you can be trusted with money? so many times when we have conversations about where we are in comparison to where we would like to be, usually the line of thinking or the narrative that we tell ourselves is, if only I had X amount more money, my problems would be solved. The issue with that line of thinking is that it, first of all, robs us from the ability to take action today, or minimizes our ability to take action today. But also, it speaks to this future version of ourselves that has not grown beyond what are the limitations in mindset and behavior that impact how we interact with our money today. A lot of people, and certainly when I have this conversation from a trauma-informed lens, a lot of people have money and can do more with the money that they have, but have a mixed, or rather a misaligned value system in comparison to their goals. And that's not to say that their values are bad and that their goals are good. Many times the goals that people decide that they want to have are goals that they picked up from reading a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, or scrolling on social media, or reading an article or a blog that says this is what you should be doing, and at this stage in your life, this is where you should be. And so people hyperfixate on what this absolute in personal finance looks like, even though personal finance is personal. And so there are no absolutes. And they decide, by the time I'm 30, I want to be a homeowner. By the time I'm 30, I want to be making $100,000 a year. By the time I'm 30, I want to be married and have 2 children. And a lot of these goals are tied into how we measure success within ourselves financially, but also how we interpret what others may be thinking about how successful we are, based off of some of the signaling, and certainly what is considered status quo based off of what it is that they read, or based off of what it is that we read. And so, going back to this question, can you be trusted with money? We have to look at the pros and cons of, if by some strange fortune you pick up a lottery ticket in the middle of the street and it has the winning number, and examining how most lotto winners are back to where they started within 5 years. The question, can you be trusted with money, has to be kind of tossed around, at least internally, because with that additional money, your problems don't go away. Your problems potentially can get magnified because you're not doing the work to change behavior, or to change your approach, or to change your mentality. And this is not speaking from the perspective of individuals who are quite literally in a survival mode. Individuals who are in a survival mode absolutely do need more money to escape that reality. But there are many instances of individuals who have navigated life in a survival modality for an extended period of time, who get out of this survival mode, who have experienced financial stability and financial safety, but still operate in that state of survival. And so that individual or individuals have not done the necessary work to heal their financial traumas, and therefore stuck in this kind of a limbo, regardless of the security that they've created for themselves financially, regardless of income, regardless of assets. And so they operate through the lens of that behavior, or through the lens of how they are interpreting their reality. And this is why I think financial therapy is so important, because the work helps individuals to realign what would be considered a misalignment in their values, their goals, and their safety. And so, of course, the next question that I asked this individual was, what does money represent to you? Again, I'm going to ask you this question as in the same way that I asked this individual. And I want you to make a mental note of your immediate reaction to this question. What does money represent to you? For some people, money represents a tool, something that I can use to get from point A to point B and navigate in my everyday life. For other people, money represents power. It gives me the ability to say no or to say yes in instances where I may want to or I may not want to. If I have money, then I can influence other people's lives. I can have other people be dependent on me. I can make other people's lives easier. For some people who have malicious intentions, they can make other people's lives more difficult. Money for other people can represent safety. If I have money, I can avoid these situations that I don't want to be in. I can avoid having to get on the bus at 11 o'clock at night because I can buy a car or I can pay for an Uber. I can avoid going to the grocery store and having my card declined. I can avoid the embarrassment of not being able to buy new clothes or the newest technology, or I can avoid the embarrassment of seeing an eviction notice on the door. Certainly, that's a scenario that I can relate to. In a 2019 TEDx talk, I talk about coming home from school one day and seeing an eviction notice on the door of my mom's apartment and immediately snatching the notice off and going inside and I'm like, hey, Mom, like, what's going on? Are we going to lose our place to live? Like, what does this mean? But I also remember in that instance thinking how many people walked past our apartment door and saw this notice and just was silently judging us. And silently, you know, there's a shame associated with not having money or being in a position where you are powerless to do things because you don't have money. And whether that shame is internal or external, right? People projecting that shame onto you, it is something that we learn through financial socialization from a young age. And therefore, we learn that the solution to this lack of safety and security is to get more money. And so in asking these questions and reacting to these questions, I asked this individual to do an exercise. I said, once you take the time to ask yourself the question, can you be trusted with money? What does money represent to you? And you think about what your answer is, you can then reframe that question into an affirmation or a mantra. And certainly we spent some time on this show talking about the power of affirmations, the power of being able to say out loud what it is that you are affirming, and how the power of that affirmation can begin to help you rewire the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself, about what money represents, and ultimately how you can use that money. And so it stops being, can I be trusted with money? And it becomes, I can be trusted with money. It stops being, what does money represent safety for me? Or money represents power for me? Or money represents a tool for me? And it becomes, I am safe with money. I am powerful because of the money that I have. I am equipped because I have money as a tool, et cetera, et cetera. And these affirmations can be broken out, of course, into individual and personal affirmations that speak to how you perceive money and how you intend on reprogramming your perception around money and what that represents for you, and whether or not that is something that you can be trusted with. But it's not going to be all inclusive, wave a magic wand, and this solves all of my problems. This reframe that's taking place mentally and emotionally has to be accompanied by action, has to be accompanied by work. This individual shared with me that they read all the books. They understand financial literacy. They understand products and services. But for whatever reason, they can't take action on what it is that they know. And so rather than spend time giving them education on the things that they already know because they read all the books, we spend time on how do we align that knowledge to where you are currently. How can we take the experiences that you're having, whether they be from a place of survival or from a place of stagnation or from a place of thriving financially, and prove based off of the affirmations that you start to incorporate into your everyday life, prove those affirmations are accurate. I can be trusted with money because I have a budget. And so I know what's coming in and what's going out and where I can spend my money in ways that benefit me, or in ways that give me pleasure, or in ways that allow me to relax without taking away from the expenses that I need to make sure are paid in order to survive. Money makes me feel safe. I'm safe with money because ... and you would fill in that blank. Why would you be safe with money? Because I have the ability to keep my lights on. I have the ability to have heat. I have the ability to put food on the table. I have the ability to send my children to extracurriculars. I have the ability to pay my car note so I don't have to take the bus to work, etc., etc. And so we connect the mantras and these ideas that we have around money with our lived experience by proving our point with the because, so that we don't end up in a situation where if we do come into a lot of money, if it ever so happens that across our desk comes an opportunity where we have an income generating opportunity that is far beyond whatever it is that we ever dreamed, or an asset possibility far beyond whatever it is that we could ever dream, we wake up and we find out that we are the beneficiary of some large life insurance policy, or we are the beneficiary of somebody's will. And now we have access to all of these resources that we're automatically going to recognize and convert into a dollar amount, because this is what money represents to us in this stage of our life, that we are equipped with the behaviors and the mentality to take on this new income, this new asset, this new lump sum of cash, and not deviate from the messaging that we tell ourselves. Because we can say, I can be trusted with money, and then end up at the casino, gambling it all away. We could say, I can be trusted with money, and end up doing Uber Eats every day for the rest of the week, or for the rest of the month, or for the rest of the year, because I'm too lazy to cook, or I'm too lazy to, or I'm too busy to cook. We can say, I can be trusted with money, but we're sacrificing on the things that need to get done, like paying our rent, or paying our mortgage, or keeping our lights on, or making sure that we're paying our car note, and then spending that money on leisurely activities instead. Going out, going on vacation, buying expensive items that don't do anything for you, that don't produce income, because just like we talked about in another previous episode with our guest, Asia Evans, we feel like we deserve it. And so I would echo what Asia shared in that episode. Yes, you do deserve it, but you may not be able to afford it. And in not being able to afford it, you should create a plan that allows for you to prove, even though you don't need to prove that you deserve it, but allows for you to prove that I can afford this item, and I'm going to get it because I deserve it. So how do we use affirmations to affirm and identify the limiting beliefs that we have with money? I think that all of the examples that I shared are examples of how we can take a question about our engagement with money, or what money represents to us, or the stories that we tell ourselves about money. Am I deserving of money? Was another one that came up. Do I deserve to have this money? And then connect that question, or turn that question into a positive, spin that question into a positive affirmation, and then connect the behaviors in our lived reality to that affirmation, thus proving the affirmation correct and allowing it to take root in our mind so that we can break the limiting beliefs that we have. I love the example that I just gave about whether or not you are deserving of money, because individuals that I've worked with have shared with me that despite achieving high levels of income, or higher levels of income than they thought previously possible, that they still struggle with a sort of survivor's remorse or guilt, because the people that they love, the people that they care about, the people that they grew up with don't have the ability, or have not realized the ability, to generate income in the same amounts that they have. And therefore, they feel obligated to kind of toss them out like life raft, so to speak, and save them from themselves without having been asked. And so in many ways, those individuals, because they're wrestling with that guilt, because they're wrestling with that survivor's remorse, don't feel like they deserve it, because what makes me so special? The person that I grew up with doesn't have the same opportunities that I do, so why should I have these opportunities? And it might sound outlandish to some people on the outside looking in, but this is a real experience that individuals navigate every single day. And so asking the question, am I deserving of money? And then turning that into the affirmation, I am deserving of money. And then connecting that affirmation with the because. I am deserving of money because I've worked hard to get to where I am. I'm deserving of money because I have sacrificed to get to where I am. I'm deserving of money because ... and you will fill in the blank. So I would encourage you watching to take these questions that I've asked and answer them honestly. And then turn the answers to those questions into affirmations. And then prove those affirmations are correct, or prove those affirmations are accurate by connecting the because as an exercise to not only identify the areas where you may have experienced limiting beliefs, but to affirm or create new pathways in your mind that recognize your safety, that recognize your responsibility with money, that recognize your deservingness with money, and allow for you to continue to pursue opportunities and navigate your finances in a way that is responsible and beneficial to you and your financial circumstances. This has been another episode of Financially Irresponsible. I am your host, Rahkim Sabree, and I look forward to talking to you guys next time.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.
Hi, I'm Jay McCormick, a board director at Nutmeg TV, your local public TV station right here in Farmington. Nutmeg TV has been an integral part of our community for over 30 years, providing a platform for residents to share stories, voice concerns, and celebrate achievements. It's a vital resource that connects us all, bringing countless local events to our TV screens. The topics are limitless and vary from being aware of scams to veterans helping veterans. Nutmeg TV continues to be here for the community. To continue this important work, we're asking for your support through a donation. Your contribution will ensure that Nutmeg TV remains a robust and relevant resource for our community. Thank you for supporting Nutmeg TV. Together, we can continue to amplify the voices and stories that make our community unique and vibrant.
To make a donation, simply visit our website at nutmegtv.com or call the office at 860-321-7405 for assistance.